So this is why I love social media, is I learn so much about myself and how much I know. By putting something out there, I have to dig into my own beliefs and I have to figure out why I know the things I know, or do I actually know the things that I know? So this guy, I've talked about how you need an ID in California to vote, right? It's just something that I accept. And this guy comes along, Jason DeLue. Actually, most of the people who came along were like, oh no, of course you don't have to have an ID. So this guy comes along and says, I've been voting in San Francisco for 18 years and I haven't shown an ID. So Jason says, I was and am not registered at that or any specific polling station. I didn't even know registering for a polling station was a thing. Now, if you've registered to vote, you know that you get a polling station. So this guy's not registered to vote, and he thinks he's been voting for the past 18 years. So what's been happening with this guy's vote is that he's getting a provisional ballot, and then they put it off to the side, and then when they go look him up, and they see if he's a registered voter or not, they can't find it, and they just throw it away. They've been throwing away this guy's ballot for 18 years, and he thinks he's been voting. So then he's been going around telling everybody that you don't need to register to vote. You don't need an ID. You just go and vote, and it counts. And he doesn't realize his vote has never been counted for 18 years. He's just been futilely going to the polling place and thinking he's voting. So and then when most people look up, do you need to have an ID to vote in California? They get this article by sos.gov that says you don't need to have an ID to vote. But what they're not realizing is that you still need to prove that you're a citizen and you still need to register to vote with an ID, which is what you do at the DMV. So you still need an ID. You still need to prove that you're a citizen, and you still get added to a list of names of all the people who are registered to vote when you register to vote. So you can't just be a random person and go vote at a polling station and assume that your vote is going to count. And that's when you get lies.
Another obvious portal, which is California and New York, won't even allow you to show your ID when you vote. Yep. There's only one reason why you would do that, because you want people voting that shouldn't be voting, and you want it to count because you want to win.
Yep.
Right?
And more we're seeing that they are literally importing voters and paying them with government money.
Yes.
With like.
Not only do you have to have an ID to register to vote, and you do that at the DMV, and you have to prove you're a citizen, but once you go to the polling station, me and everybody I know and my family and all my hundreds of friends of people that I grew up with and everybody in California since 1998, since I've been voting for over 25 years now in elections, we've all had to show our IDs. They don't not allow you to show your ID. That's the first thing they ask for when you go up to the polling station is, where's your ID? Now, there might be some people like we've looked at those pages where, okay, so you don't have an ID. What happens? You say you are who you're supposed to be, right? And then it becomes a provisional ballot. And then if they find out that person has not voted and that's a real registered voter, then they may count that vote. But if you don't have an ID and you're voting at the wrong place or whatever, it's going to be provisional ballot. And there's a good chance that, especially if you're not a registered voter and you've never proved who you are, that vote is not going to count, okay? These are lies. So the ID process is front-loaded, and the reason why they denied that law that Huntington Beach was going to have their own rules was, in the Attorney General's words, we cannot have 100 different charter cities making up 100 different sets of voting rules based on fringe conspiracy theories. And that was the reason. They didn't want every single place in California to have different rules when people come to the polling stations, because they've already proved when they register to vote that they have an ID and that they're a citizen. And so a lot of people lose their IDs. A lot of the people who have the hardest lives, you know how many times you lost your school ID or whatever. They don't want people who have hard lives to not be able to vote. And, you know, whether or not you agree with that specific part, it doesn't mean that a bunch of non-citizens are walking up and having their votes counted.